I honestly wish Tim Walz was utilized more. The more perfect union video of him speaking to undecided voters would convert the rep. Union members.
Why, Andrew S., it's almost like you read my mind and made the perfect transition into what we are about to talk about. We're about to talk about Tim Walz, folks. From the window to the walls. Let's go. Because I think we're gonna have to talk about Tim Walz a little bit. He's been performing 10 out of 10. Like, he's been doing so good at basically everything that he's been put to. Like, I truly believe that he does not have ambition to be president. Like, Minnesota governors tend to not have that. But I do think that I think that if he makes it to the end of 8 years as vice president, I think he has a fantastic shot at being a farther left president, like a practical far left president on par with like FDR. Like, I think, you know how Kamala Harris is an improvement on Biden? I think Tim Walz would be an improvement on Kamala Harris, you know? Like, I think he's got the sauce to go 8 years and then run for president. Because keep in mind, he's only 60 years old, which in terms of like political politician, as opposed to the non-political ones. But you know what I mean. As far as politicians go, that's like a young whippersnapper, you know?
I used to be a Zionist, but that's definitely changed over time. If I'm going to be morally consistent, that has to change.
I'm glad to hear that you changed for the better. Yeah, like, ultimately, I think that Zionism is like a colonial movement, and I think that that's bad. I think colonialism is bad in its forms. So, like, yeah. Bun Gaming, thank you for hitting the subscribe button over on youtube.com/riverboatjack. And Draglav, thank you for the 2 gifted tier 1 subs over on Twitch. I appreciate that. But all that to say, I think he'd be a good president. We'll have to see. We have to get through this election cycle first, though. Okay, folks? Let's go. And let's take a look at some of his recent appearances, okay? Just a couple clips. Like, this one's great.
Those women you're thinking about right now have fewer rights than their mothers or their grandmothers had. That's what he did. Now, 20 states have the Trump abortion ban. Last night, Donald Trump said that if you're a woman, he'll be your protector. And he also said this. Imagine that this was a moment of self-reflection for him. He says, I know a lot of people don't like that. Oh, no shit, they don't like it. But here's the scary part, people, because there's no excuse for not hearing this, because he said it. He said, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. That's how this guy's lived his life. That's why he was on the Access Hollywood tape, and that's why he ended up in court, because that's what he thinks about. Women turned away now because of what he's doing from emergency rooms.
By the way, worth pointing out that, and Gamer G and I talked about this a little bit, but Tim Walz has done a really good job messaging about the Access Hollywood tape, because young voters are so young that they do not remember the Access Hollywood tape. For us olds, okay, it's constantly on our minds. It's like a defining moment of what makes Donald Trump a political figure. But like, for people who are just turning 18 and are able to vote for the first time in this election, they don't know about it. Because when that came out politically, they were 10 years old, you know? You don't know that tape? Yeah, exactly. Or you didn't know that tape, Fresh Shonen. Exactly. Exactly. A lot of people are like, wait, Donald Trump bragged about sexually assaulting women? And it's like, yeah. And somehow he's still the president. He brags about it all the time. I almost wish I didn't remember it, yeah. I think it's possible to oppose the Israeli government while also supporting the people of Gaza, but you have to be able to hold 2 ideas in your head at the same time. Well, wait, of course. That's the position we hold. That's the position we at Riverboat Jack Incorporated hold. I think it's possible to oppose the Israeli government while also opposing Hamas. That is our position here at Riverboat Jack HQ. It's okay, Advice Mom. I understand. Anyway, let's finish this clip up because we got a few more clips.
To get basic care, having miscarriages in parking lots, survivors of rape and incest being forced to carry their attacker's child. Those are the type of those women you're thinking.
Like, again, this is messaging that lands in Pennsylvania, where they're really focusing a lot of their campaign efforts, you know? And keep in mind, guys, the Trump campaign has pulled out of Pennsylvania. Like, they are, by and large, not doing things there right now. Donald Trump canceled appearances at, like, football games and stuff because they're just out of juice. They're just out of juice there. But we're not done, of course. We're not done. Look at this. Look at this moment. This is Tim Walz meeting a former student of his while on the campaign trail, and it's just lovely. Yeah, look at giving her a hug. I can't. So cute. Like, he still recognizes her all these years later. It's wholesome. It's wholesome. Because he's an actual human being. You know? Can you imagine Donald Trump, like, recognizing, like, a child that he mentored 20 years ago? No. Because we all know that child would be, like, you know, pretty messed up from the sexual abuse. Like, he doesn't give a shit about those now adult people. Donald Trump is a psychopath. And not only that, like, let's take a look. This is a brilliant ad campaign that's been running in Pennsylvania. Here we go.
America, to turn the page on Donald Trump, it's going to take all of us. Every single one of us has got to get out there and vote. That's how we'll build a country where everyone has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Where affordable health care is a right. Where we lower housing costs and where the government stays the hell out of your bedroom. As the next president of the United States always says, when we fight, we win. Now let's go out there and vote. America.
Let's go. Let's go. Put me in, coach. Yeah, the old coach halftime talk. You know this plays well with conservatives, by the way. Like, conservatives who love, like, the movie Rudy. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, it's just like the movie. It's just like my favorite movie, Friday Night Lights. Just like my favorite television show, also Friday Night Lights. Also, like, guys, conservatives have been trying to attack Tim Walz on a number of different angles for months now, and they haven't been able to find anything. Okay? Like, one story was he seduced the daughter of a top, like, union official in China, and then she's pined over him ever since. Like, that's not an effective attack. That just makes him sound cool as hell for pulling a baddie. You know, like, and then things didn't work out. Like, that's a cool story about Tim Walz. So he rizzed her up. Yeah, he rizzed up a rifle-toting daughter of a Communist Party official. And, like, the story gets a little sad because, like, she thought she was going to be able to get a visa, and apparently they had a falling out because he was like, well, do you love me? Or, like, is this just for a visa? Like, what's the deal here? And, like, they had a bit of a falling out, but, like, they wrote each other, like, letters. You know, like, it's a good story. Like, this is, like, kind of, like, you could make a movie about that. How does that not make him sound like a Chad? It does make him sound like a Chad. But you know what else? Playing into this also makes him sound like a Chad. This is the last Oppo research that came out about Tim Walz. And this is in Fox News. Tim Walz allegedly told high school football players struggling with crime and alcohol to keep playing. Walz allegedly told the teenager, "We need you," repeatedly. Oh my God, dastardly. Dastardly. One of Tim Walz's former players on the 1998 Mankato West team shared details of his interactions with Walz while dealing with alcoholism and issues with the law. Former Mankato West linebacker Dan Clement told The Ringer that he began to experiment with alcohol when he was in high school. Then, the summer between his junior and senior year, Clement said he was arrested multiple times for underage drinking. Clement had a suspension from football to begin his final high school season and said he decided, "I'm just not going to play at all." But Clement said Walz repeatedly approached him in the hallways that year and told the teenager, "We need you." He knew that I was struggling, Clement told the outlet, adding that Walz told him, "I don't care about that other stuff. Wow, this Tim Walz guy, he's really bad and evil, clearly." Clement said after Walz's intervention that he eventually returned to the team for the second half of the season. However, Clement said he did not get sober until a full decade after Walz pushed for him to return to the field for his final season. Still, Clement thanked Walz for his impact on his life. Quote, "The caring attention he gave me, that positive support can pull you through really dark times in your life." Adding, he told Walz, quote, "I'm leaning on you. I'm trusting you here. I think partying is a better idea. You don't think so. I'm going to trust you on that." And he was right. I was wrong. And later in life, when I continued to do that, when I continued to trust other people who loved me, then it led my life into this beautiful direction, just like it did back then. So, I'm like almost tearing up here. So this supposed hit piece on Tim Walz shows him inspiring a troubled high schooler to believe in the people who love him, and it drew him out of one of the darkest times in his life until he was able to reach a point a decade later where he's sober. Like, this is not an attack on him. You just uncovered a very sweet and moving story that like it right out of a movie. Like JD Vance, not JD Vance, Tim Walz here is like the protagonist. He's like pulling some Ted Lasso shit. Also, here's a short video from October. Short video from October. While campaigning, Tim Walz took time to come back home and do this. In case it might be hard to tell what happened here. Walz greets fans as players take the field in Mankato for the city's annual Jug Game rivalry match. Yeah. It's cute. It's so cute. Like, he's on the campaign trail. He's still showing up for his local football games.
Like, here's a damning picture of Tim Walz cuddling kittens. Checkmate libs.
No, it really does. Like, they have got so little on this guy. They've got so little on him. It's ridiculous. Oh, there he is. I was wondering where he is in the video. He's like way back there. But like they've really got nothing on him. Yeah, they're trying to make it seem like he cared more about doing well at football than he cared about this kid's well-being. But it's very clear from the quote that the now grown-up student gave that, like, Tim Walz's support meant the world to him at the time. You know? Like, My God. Like, all the Hunter Biden stuff was, this guy has a bigger dick than all of you and slept with beautiful women on every continent. And the Tim Walz stuff is like, remember your favorite teacher? Tim Walz is better. He believed in his kids when no one else would. That asshole. It really is something that, like, boils down in that way. It's incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. All right. And we have one last bit of Tim Walz for you guys. This is probably going to be the majority of the video here. This is a video from More Perfect Union titled, "We Put Tim Walz in a Room with Undecided Voters. Can he win them over?" And I'm so excited to see this. More Perfect Union has been doing absolutely legendary work this election cycle. You all should pay way more attention to them if you haven't yet. They've been covering workers' rights and organizing issues across the country. They've got a wonderful team of people who cover all these issues. And honestly, I want to see more. I want to see more content like this rather than the Jubilee content. Like the weird game show Jubilee stuff is weirdly cynical and off-putting to me. But, like, getting a bunch of undecided voters to talk to, like, one of the candidates or one of the candidate representatives, like, that seems like a really good idea. We should do more of that. So, in the spirit of that, let's take a look. Let's take a look.
There you go. Hey.
Hi, guys. I want to introduce you to some voters right here.
Hi, Tim Walz.
I'm here in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, man. Even the way he says, "Hi, I'm Tim Walz," like, he's genuinely curious and interested in meeting this guy.
I want to introduce you to some voters right here.
Hi, Tim Walz.
I'm here in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we've organized a sit-down with Governor Tim Walz.
Okay, hi, everybody. Good to see you all.
And undecided working-class voters.
Appreciate it. Thanks for taking time out. Grab a seat.
I am a registered Republican, and I did vote for Trump the last election.
I'm pretty mixed on it, to be completely honest.
And I did vote for Donald Trump in 2020.
We want to find out, what will a Harris administration actually do to get wages?
Like this is what I want to see. I want to see, like, actual, like, independent folks, not like this. Like, on Jubilee, all of the people they source are, like, social media folks. You know, like, I want actual human beings to talk to candidates, you know?
Up, prices down, and save American jobs? And how will they take on the corporate greed that's rigged our economy? And most importantly, will Governor Walz change any of these voters' minds?
I wear with a badge of honor being maybe the poorest person to ever run for vice president in the history that they said. I'm a middle-class guy. I got a pension. I don't own any stocks. I recognize we've lost some of the working class.
Honestly, that's such a huge point in his favor. Like, he might, if he ran for president, he might unironically be, like, the poorest guy to ever, like, have a genuine shot of winning the presidency, you know? Like, I think his net worth is even lower than Bernie Sanders was.
Folks, we got to get folks back.
I'm Gordon Rohde. I'm third generation farmer on our farm. I'm also I'm a retired AFL-CIO, skilled union laborer. So haven't really totally made up my mind, but I'm leaning more for Trump, I think, because of the situation with the economy.
So how'd you get back on the farm, if I can?
I worked construction full-time and farmed with my father. So my sister and I own it now together, and we're still operating.
What do you raise?
We have beef cattle.
What should we do to make it easier? What would be the big thing?
I think the biggest problem now is the price of the equipment has become so expensive. When fertilizer went from $4.50 to $9.50 a ton, that was devastating, you know. And then our chemicals tripled at that time also, you know.
My farmers are getting about $4.10 a bushel for corn. That's what they were getting when grocery prices were 30% lower. They were still getting $4.10.
Oh my God. He actually knows the price per bushel of corn in Minnesota. Guys, do you know how rare it is for a person in a position of political power, like governor, to have those kinds of basic facts that they can rattle off in the middle of a conversation like it's nothing? That's crazy. Dude. This guy is unironically god tier. With just being able to quote that to this guy, I bet secured that guy's vote. The fact that he's talking with the vice president candidate and is like, oh shit, he actually knows how much corn costs. That's crazy. I trust him. Like, this is the kind of stuff that genuinely builds trust in political candidates.
And that. The farmer's not getting any more money on this. Now, input costs went up for that farmer.
See, look at him nodding along.
Just as much as they went up for the middleman who's in there.
I'm soying out right now. You guys can't stop me.
Corporate profits have seen a bigger rise than any time in our history. So it's as simple as this. Somebody in the middle's taking more money. They're asking for a tax cut in the middle. Farmers aren't getting the money, and they're passing on the cost. So she's talking about stopping the price gouging on these things, making sure the prices are fair, making sure wages are keeping pace with that. And then
it's no secret that Democrats have lost working class voters, especially rural Americans. What stood out about Walz's approach to winning them back was his knowledge of their lives and specific struggles.
Simric, I grew up in the suburbs, but like rural suburbs, if that makes sense. Like, for context, I grew up like, I don't know, I could drive 5 minutes and be in cornfields, but like still in kind of like a place relatively close to a city. So like the fringe of the suburb where like the rural meets the suburb. Yeah.
He got into the weeds of farming with Gordon.
Farm Bill, what do you guys do on crop insurance? What equipment do you need with potatoes? Like, how do you bring them in? Is it like sugar beets? You still make a living off 60 head.
Guys, do you bring them in like sugar beets? Bro, he actually knows his farming shit. And not only that, he's genuinely curious. Like, you can tell, like, this comes from a genuine place. Guys, like, I'm not kidding here, but if this guy runs for president in 2028, or 2032, sorry, like, he's gonna like win every rural state. The dude next to him is literally like in disbelief, man. His mind is expanding. The edibles are hitting.
Yeah, correct.
2000.
Yeah.
And the details of trade policy with Dan.
So my name is Dan Hand. I work at Mack Trucks in Macungie, Pennsylvania. I am a registered Republican. I'm going to support who's going to support labor. Volvo just announced that they are building a plant in Mexico.
Yeah.
And it's going to be building both Mack trucks and Volvo trucks. And everybody's really concerned about potentially losing our work.
Yeah.
And we're wondering as far as what the administration would do to help strengthen our plant domestically as opposed to with what's coming out of Mexico.
Yeah, no, this was a big deal, and this is a double punch to you. In many of these cases, these folks were given a tax break, your tax dollars, tax breaks, to then offshore your job. And look, this started in the 80s and the 90s when we were saying that
Dude! Tim Walz calling out neoliberal policy. Oh my God. Calling out neoliberal policy, calling out like... Oh my God, he's so good at this, guys. He's so good at this. Lisan Al-Gaib.
We would start shipping these jobs overseas, and then all of a sudden we started seeing the decline.
Thousands of auto workers in swing states are worried about whether their jobs will be shipped to low-wage countries like Mexico. And who they vote for will depend on who they trust to renegotiate flawed trade deals like the US-Mexico-Canada agreement or USMCA.
The other concern as far as like NAFTA.
Yeah, no, he's about to bring up NAFTA. I was about to call it. He's about to bring up NAFTA. I knew it. Like, Tim Walz, by directly linking it to like 80s and 90s, he was directly calling out NAFTA. Like, for people like this guy, NAFTA is like the thing that ruined his life, but also the lives of everyone he knows. We're only 4 minutes in. This is so good. Because Tim Walz already called this out without attaching NAFTA, and that gives him the opportunity to go after NAFTA and like confirm, yeah, that was a terrible thing. We need to do better and offer an alternative.
2.0, the USMCA.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened with John Deere. They wound up losing a lot of work.
A lot of rhetoric. And look, Donald Trump picked up on this. He picked up on that there was frustration. We were frustrated because the jobs left and all that. They told us that they were going to fix this, and it didn't get any better. We lost 6 auto manufacturing plants under President Trump's presidency. We've gained back 20. So I think being very clear that we end the policies that incentivize them to do that. We re-incentivize those that are willing to invest here. And things like the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, and things like that, they are working. They are starting to come back.
Yeah, exactly. This also sets him up in a position to, in a sideways way, go after Clinton policy, which in the mind of like undecided middle America voters means an awful lot. That means an awful lot. Like a not insignificant amount of the hatred for Hillary Clinton was directly because she's a Clinton and Clintons did NAFTA.
Those 2 laws, passed by the Biden-Harris administration, invest trillions of dollars in bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. after decades of offshoring. People like Jamie Sychek are on the front lines of those global economic shifts.
Jamie Sychek, I am a skilled trades card holder of the UAW. It's coming up on my 30th year. I work in a steel mill in Butler, Pennsylvania, and we make a unique product that's electrical steel for transformers.
We're kind of tied to you guys.
For transformers? Thank you for your service, comrade.
With our taconite in northern Minnesota.
Yes, I gotta be totally honest.
Oh, I drive by the taconite harbors all the time. Shout out to my taconite harbors.
I'm still up in
Got
the
a
air.
weird soft spot for those giant
Trump
piles of
in
ore.
2016, and I did vote for Donald Trump in 2020.
Over the last 50 years, American steel jobs have been decimated by cheap foreign steel. The mill Jamie works at has been in limbo for years.
Last year.
Cthulhu, thank you
Walz
for the sub.
would be the first VP to have played Crazy Taxi.
Not only that, Walz would be the first VP to be in Crazy Taxi. It's true. Keep in mind, folks, he just got modded into Crazy Taxi. I have a video about it on my channel, youtube.com/riverboatjack.
This year with the Department of Energy, we had a rule regulation proposed that was nearly going to wipe us off the map. Everything was going to come from overseas.
What was the resolution on that?
The resolution ultimately was this past April. The rule accommodates the products that we make for this.
Spherical Man, I'm feeling good.
It was a very long, hard fought.
It felt like a fight.
To get that conversation to happen.
All right.
I think American workers like me and people in labor and just middle-class workers need to know that an administration that's in charge has a voice at that and will be a consideration from day one. If we're looking at
not
proposing,
after the fact, not when
right,
you're fighting,
proposing
policies
and regulations, that those have impacts on jobs and real people, and we need somebody that's going to consider that from the ground up.
Well, you certainly got my assurance, and I know the Vice President has lived that way, and Joe Biden certainly did, is that we need to have you at the table, and we need to avoid these things. We need to make sure that your voices of labor are heard. We talk about this being the most pro-labor. Certainly not perfect. We've been through some of these, but I think you've got the assurance that things work better. We know this, if you guys are at the table on the front end. And I'm really bullish because we're going to have to put steel in the ground on all of these, clean energy projects, and then there's golden opportunity there for jobs, American jobs.
Yeah, like the way he's tying in their concerns to like practical like applications of what their jobs relate to, yeah, we're going to invest in gigantic infrastructure projects. We're going to need that steel that you guys make. Like, we need you. We need your jobs so that we can make these other jobs. Like, this is a great way that resonates, I think, with undecided folks.
On green steel, clean energy, American energy production.
Sustainable jobs for generations. I'm third generation in my plant. My dad.
Yeah, that's the other thing. A lot of these folks care about, like, the legacy of, like, their labor line, And the idea that, like, their job might go away in the future is sad, because it means, like, they have to uproot their entire lives, but also, like, the lives of everyone who comes after them. Like, it won't be the life that they grew up with, that they care about, that they hold dear in their heart. Like, this guy is the third in his family to work this same job, and he wants to be able to stay in his home. Like, we talk about the importance of homeland to certain groups of people. Well, like, to this guy, like, his father and his father before him, like, all worked in this same area, and that's really important. There's a sense of belonging there, a sense of earned place. And that is very, very compelling to folks like this. And honestly, I'd argue to a lot of folks, not just folks like this.
Thank you for not being condescending about these people like certain other creators.
You're welcome, Simric. I don't see anything to condescend to them about. Like, they have... I think they're actually, like, unlike a lot of other folks, I think they have very tangible, very common sense asks that they want to see delivered on by government, right? Like, they've been really fucked over by neoliberal policy for decades, and they have some shred of hope that maybe that could be undone. And that hope is currently being blown upon by Tim Walz to kind of maybe turn that spark into a flame, into a little fire of hope,
My grandfather worked there. There should be jobs there for 3 or 4 generations to come.
I think you're right. You're thinking about your kids. What are jobs are they going to do? And then couple it with how they're going to buy a house. I don't want them coming out of school with debt. I want them having a skill and something to do. We're really pushing it. I know the Vice President's pushing it, this idea of skills, more apprenticeship programs, more opportunities to get in, build a stronger economy. They'll be thriving.
Vice President mentioned addressing the price gouging. A lot of people are struggling buying just basic everyday needs. I mean, I know she was saying that she's going to attack the price gouging, but how?
Wait, what's the difference between these undecided voters and the undecided we dislike? I mean, frankly, I don't dislike any undecided voter. Like, I view them as more likely to vote than people who are just completely disconnected from politics. I actually think more highly of these people because they care about the politics. They just don't really see a viable path forward for, a future that benefits them, And so in my mind, the key to winning over folks like this is painting a picture that they can believe in of how you're going to make their lives better if you win, right? And I think that is really important to them. It's really important to the campaign, but also if you then deliver on that promise, these people will be ride or die for you. Like, these people come from the kind of folk where your word is your bond. You seal your business with, spit and a handshake. And then that agreement stays in place for the next, 120 years, right? And that might be maybe a little bit idealistic. Obviously, there are exceptions, but like for the most part, that's kind of like the cultural environment for folks like this. Gross, you know what I mean. But I think that there are also folks who are undecided for less tangible reasons and more just like ideological incoherence. Those tend to be, frankly, more online types. They also tend to be a bit younger. And I get more easily frustrated with those folks because you can argue in circles with them for hours and nothing matters. So that, to me, that I guess that would be a distinction I would make. But I like these guys because I understand how they work and I understand how to deliver to them. And like, I can watch this and be like, Tim Walz is nailing it with this particular demographic. And I like that.
How exactly?
When we're talking price gouging, it's a fairness in the market. And I just give a couple examples of this. The one is we saw the hurricane coming and all of a sudden...
Yeah, it's like when, well, it's the entire dynamic of like the New Deal solidifying, like, you know, the New Deal, probably the guy on the left here, probably solidified his father and his father's father's support for the Democratic Party for life. They were probably ride or die for the Democratic Party for life. Because of the New Deal, right? Because of the way that built manufacturing in their towns, and the way like that economic boom and investment into rural America really like changed their lives and improved the quality of their lives. So I think that, you know, one of the main disconnects for folks like this guy is that in his lifetime there has not been a New Deal like effort. And I think the way you reach folks like this is just you explain the Green New Deal. You have a actual policy proposal to make that real, and you can pitch it to him. And if he believes you, if he knows that you're walking the walk and talking the talk, and then you deliver for him, like he's gonna be there for life. Like when we talk about the working class of America, like these guys are one of us, chat. And you know, when I see him like torn, I see a worker who has been screwed over for a long time. And yeah, I don't know. I get that. That's something I can understand. Yeah, and exactly. Like if he were to vote for Harrison Walz and then Harrison Walz don't deliver on a promise to tangibly improve his life and the life of his family and the lives of his kids, then he's never going to believe anything they have to say or anyone who's associated have to say. And, you know, he might not be wrong to disbelieve them, you know? Like it's why Bernie Sanders is one of like the most beloved politicians. It's because he's been fighting for folks like this consistently the entire time in a way that folks can see. And he's actually good enough at politics that he's been able to eke out wins for, you know, folks like this in a way that matters.
Airline tickets went up in Florida or whatever. That's not free market. That's unethical. Look, I'm not against anybody being successful. I want them to be successful. But they shouldn't be making insane amounts while they're jamming the price on that, especially on things you need to get. I talk about the last one I give you the example of is insulin. In Minnesota, they were charging for that little vial of insulin a month's worth, they were charging $800. We capped it at $35. Now people are saying, well, how's the company gonna make money? It costs $5 to make it. So 37 states already have these policies in, but we don't have a federal ban on doing this that can stop some of that. That's the initial hit on that. But the biggest thing is making sure wages are keeping pace with it, making sure that your taxes are going lower, making sure that healthcare prices aren't going up.
Okay.
So,
you know, when I think he might, you know, I think he maybe should have brought it back to corn and getting price gouged on corn. Maybe that would have been my note there. But I think also a lot of these folks probably are familiar with someone who has diabetes and who's been struggling financially as a result. So I think this is also fine.
So Steelers gonna win it? Is that the word? I'm just curious. Look, I will admit this. I thought I was smart. I thought I was smarter than Mike Tomlin. I said, what's he doing putting Russell Wilson in? And that's why Mike Tomlin's getting paid money to be a Steelers coach, and I'm not. So, thank you all.
Look at him. Look, like, I'm not a sports person. I could never do that, but look at him, dude. Look at him. Like, you saw every single guy at that table, like, crack up, and I have no idea what he just said. Like, that was like watching a wizard cast a spell. I have no idea what any of that meant.
Well, okay, really grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Do you have your wallet?
What do you want? Something? No, I have Apple Pay, though.
Oh, that works. We got it, yeah.
Oh, chat. He's so good at this. Did you see that?
What do you want? Something? No, I have Apple Pay, though.
Oh, that works. We got it, yeah.
They were buying their drinks for this next segment, and she didn't have her wallet on her, and he's like, "Oh, that's okay. I'll buy it for you." Like, and I don't think this was a prearranged bit, because he didn't know that the restaurant would pay. Dude. The kindness and consideration he constantly displays. I mean, he's so good at this. It's crazy.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I don't usually do this till November, but since it snowed back home, hot chocolate, so I know I'm breaking down.
My name is Jewel. I work at Giant Eagle, and I am part of the UFCW.
Wait, what is Giant Eagle? Oh, it's a supermarket chain. Okay. Yeah, we don't have those here, so I didn't know.
Union 1776.
This will be Jewel's first time voting in a presidential election. She's currently undecided.
Good job.
I work as a personal shopper, so every day I go around picking out groceries for one or more people, and I see people are restricted just based on what they can buy at Giant Eagle because of how prices are at our store.
This is such a fascinating person to sit down with. This is the kind of person that would be completely and utterly overlooked by a Republican campaign. Completely and utterly. And like, this is such a good get because she has such an in-depth experiential knowledge of price gouging as it relates to groceries. This is really good. Guys, we need to cover more Perfect Union content, I think. This is above and beyond what I expected, and I already knew that they were really good at this. Like, not only is Tim Walz doing a good job, but like the setup and arrangement of this entire segment here is legendarily good.
We talk about this a lot, the cost, and especially after the COVID pandemic, a lot of things like groceries, the prices went up. How do you hear people talk to you about it?
I get a lot of negative feedback from our customers about the prices, and I wish I could do something to change them. It just is unfortunate that we are in a place right now where the prices aren't like they should be.
We're hearing this from folks, and Vice President talked about, making sure price gouging stops, but just as importantly, making sure that taxes are fair for you rather than the top.
I would like to know, how does your administration plan to implement less taxes on wages and overtime?
Yeah, and making sure the Vice President put out a proposal that 100 million Americans will receive a tax cut. If you're making less than $400,000 a year, which is pretty much everybody I know, your taxes won't go up. And I think we've been very clear on this. We're targeting our tax cuts and our tax relief by asking the folks that are at the top to pay their fair share. Folks that are making tens of millions, many times they pay a much smaller percentage, if anything, on federal tax because they have ways. And I think what we're saying is it should just be fair. They should pay their fair share, and we should make sure the burden doesn't fall on this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. If you were sick on a day, can you get off work?
Yes.
You get paid for it?
I do not believe so, no.
Yeah, so those are the types of things, like in Minnesota we did it, the vice president's talking about this, because it's hard. Like, you think right now if you
Yeah, like if you need to take a sick day in Minnesota, your employer has to give you sick days that are paid, you know? And she doesn't have that right. But like he's like, that's just common sense. We want to extend that nationally. You should get sick days if you need to stay home. It's so good. Like I'm like tearing up because like clearly like this lady needs sick days, you know? Everyone should get sick days. It's common sense.
You got sick for a week, how do you pay the bills then?
Yeah.
If you can't get paid. So we're talking about, for workers, making sure those proposals are out there. Are those types of things that make a difference, like when you hear on voting?
Yes.
Yes.
I would definitely say so.
Healthcare or women's reproductive rights and things. How, if I can ask, and you know, feel free to answer however you're comfortable with on there, how do you see that as that discussion's happening?
Like, whereas abortions happen, I feel like they are justified as long as it's not being taken advantage of. And I just believe that should be there for medically necessary needs.
No, and I thank you for trusting me with the answer, because I said this is one that, and I would just say how I feel and how the vice president feels. We feel very strongly that that's your decision, that you should have the freedom to do that with your doctor.
Yes.
Well, the first vote, are you excited about it?
I am very excited about it.
It matters, right?
Yes.
And so, well, I hope that the vice president and I can earn your vote.
After our swing voters talked to Walz, we wanted to know, did he change their minds?
What's that growing season look like?
You know, I didn't think he would be so down to earth and have the ag background and have the knowledge of the union
He's a
trades
farm
and
boy.
everything. So
Does it change the way you're thinking about things?
yeah, I think it does. I think I've
man.
definitely got to sit down and do some thinking.
My
I
man.
have a lot more faith in this Harris and Walz administration's outlook for us. So it's given me a lot more to think about. I'll be totally honest.
Jewel had to take off for her shift at work.
My man.
So we called her later to get her take on the conversation.
Are there any moments that stuck out for you?
Well, I liked that he asked me about my opinion on abortion. It just really helped me decide kind of who I maybe want to vote for. It just kind of helped my opinion in that way.
And so I know you went in undecided. What's your feeling coming out of the conversation?
I definitely feel like he was just so genuine, and he was definitely like good answering my questions. So I just feel like I can definitely lean towards that administration.
Let's
Having
go.
more so labor-friendly people in the NLRB is a huge thing. And I've seen some things swinging in a positive way. We just want to keep it going that way.
Yeah, you got to keep Lena
And
Khan
you
in,
feel
baby.
like the Walz-Harris administration will do that?
I'm hoping so.
And so when you go to cast your vote, how are you going to vote?
I'm going to vote for Harris and Walz.
My
Gordon,
man.
Dan, Jamie, and Jewel are the types of people Tim Walz and Kamala Harris will have to persuade to win on Tuesday. Working class people, many of whom voted for Trump in 2020 or didn't vote at all. Seeing how his conversations had changed minds, I wanted to get his reaction and understand his approach.
Well, look, it tells me that we have got policies. These folks are concerned about the things that we knew they're concerned about. They want American jobs here. They want to be paid a fair wage. They're thinking about things like health care, and they're thinking trade policy. How did these jobs leave? They're not asking for anything special or out of the ordinary. They're asking for really a fair shake.
Yeah.
The thing that I take from these conversations is we've got to do a better job to talk to them about what our policies are and where we're at.
We've seen that working class people sort of move away from the Democratic Party for whatever reason over the last few decades.
Yeah.
How do you bring those people back in? What do you have to do to change the perception of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, we hear them and see them, make sure you're clear about that, and then understand why they got that perception, because a lot of folks, they don't know who to blame on this. And my opponent, Senator Vance, talks...
Yeah, like this is an excellent point to bring up too. Like a lot of folks in middle America who are working class, they don't necessarily know systemically why certain things are happening. All they know is that the gas prices are what they are, the food prices are what they are, and how much money's left in their bank account at the end of the day. you know? They don't necessarily know why all of those things are happening. And it makes it really easy when things get harder and economically tighter to lash out and identify, oh, it's because of immigrants. Because that's what some people are telling you. Some people are telling you it's the immigrants. Some people are telling you it's, you know, NAFTA. Some people are telling you it's, you know, China. Some people are telling you it's Russia. Or, you know, like, there are a lot of people telling you that it's a lot of scapegoats, and you have to, like, sort through this. And sometimes in all of that noise, you don't hear that it's actually, like, these rich corporations setting prices higher and then lying about why they're doing it, you know? Like, this, you're doing all you can to keep your family safe, yourself safe, like, pay your rent, and, like, get through life. And you don't necessarily, if you're in this particular position, you don't necessarily have the time to, like, do in-depth research about the systemic issues that are leading towards certain outcomes in your life, you know? And so I love that Tim Walz kind of brings that up here.
About these communities been gutted out. They have, because of venture capitalists who gutted them out and sold them to larger companies. We've got to go to them face to face and talk about, why do we stand with them? What do we believe is fair? We got to give better examples of, like, look, farmers aren't making this money. Truck drivers not making this money. Corporate profits went way up. They're making that money. This is not us being anti-capitalist. It's us being fair in the market, because that's distorting things. And then
you know, maybe I need to incorporate some more of that rhetoric into my content. You know, like, maybe I need to, like, be like, this isn't necessarily about being anti-capitalism or anti-market, but rather it's about fairness. It's about justice. It's about, you know, agency. I feel like those are the successful arguments to make when you're, like, a socialist and you're advocating for why things should change. You know, it's about improving the quality of life while maintaining, like, economic production. Like, I think there's a lot of ways to incorporate this. I can't do sports. That I will leave to people who are more sporty. I'll leave that to the Emma Viglins of the world, okay?
I would say this, something we saw in Minnesota. You've got to have results. You can't talk about it. You got to pass legislation that impacts people in a way that they see it.
See, I was talking about that. If they don't do it, then, like, these people are lost for a generation. If they follow through, and I feel like Tim Walz is a guy who will move heaven and earth to follow through on a promise. I get that vibe from him. Then they're yours. They're with you for life. They're ride or die.
Got to get it done. You can't just talk about it.
Yeah, Governor Walz, thank you so much.
Thanks
for your
so
time.
much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
It was great. Thank you, guys.
That was so good. More perfect union. My God. Here's a link to that segment in case any of you want to share that around. That was so good. I mean, I you know, for me, that was Tim Walz's closing arguments right there. That was Tim Walz providing closing arguments for the Kamala Harris campaign. That was so good. Imagine Trump trying to do that. I mean, yeah, no, like, you can't. Incredible. Like, I'm just kind of flabbergasted still. That was so good.